All right. So welcome to the first episode of the DeathHammer podcast with me, Jacob, and
Johnny.
we've for a while now we've had the idea to start a little podcast, and it's been back and forth between us both, and we've finally just had this great time of free period. So we're just gonna take the time to do a new podcast. So
Yeah, I mean, you've got to take advantage of all this free time while we're getting it. I mean, it's like free money we're basically getting to sit in our asses and do the stuff that we love.
exactly, there's
And
no other fucking
someone
time.
like me, where you like to stay inside all the time and just play music, listen to music, and all that kind of shit, you'll be loving it. Whereas if you're one of those people that goes outside and has a social life, maybe not so much.
It's the testing time for some, and just hopefully this will break up your day and give you something else to listen to. But we just wanted to take the time to sort of give you sort of a breakdown of what we want to do, what we sort of want to achieve in the next little couple episodes, and just sort of give you the general crack about what's been happening in the lockdown of both our bands. So you want to just give a little
I mean,
brief
basically, what we're going to be doing is, I mean, this first episode is just going to be kind of me and Jacob just kind of chatting to each other, telling us what this is going to be about, what we kind of do outside of, the podcast itself, whether it's working in our own bands or doing other stuff, band related. But obviously, in future episodes, we're going to have loads of people coming on, people that we know personally, people that are more well known in the scene, promoters, band members, full bands. Hopefully, at some point, it'll be a lot easier once all of this is kind of over as well. But the people that we do have lined up have all kind of got things in line that allow us to kind of have a little brief chat and talk about some band stuffs and maybe not so much touring right now, but future tours and maybe some shows that people have got lined up. But right now it's just going to be a brief chat on what we do in our lives and what this is going to be about. So I mean, I personally play in a hardcore band called Below the Neck, and I also work with another friend of mine, Finn, who plays the drums in the band Below the Neck, and he does a lot of promoting stuff. And it was about maybe this time last year that we were kind of like, well, Finn really wanted to start putting on shows because he was fed up of the promoters up here, some of the promoters,
most
maybe,
promoters.
And fed up of shows, kind of not getting attended. That we felt like we're bands that people up here would love because we know a lot of the people up here, a lot of the music we listen to, they listen to as well. You know yourself from your own little friendship group, that tends to be a tying bind that binds people is similar musical interests. So I was like, if I'm liking this music, I'm sure you'll like it too. But it's literally me and fucking two other guys, that are both in the same band at these shows, and we were just like, we need to get this sorted. So Finn was like, I'm just going to, instead of trying to ask people, oh, hey, can you book this band? Can you book this? You should get these bands. He was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it myself. And he fucking, pulled the thumb out and he did it. We put on our first show, Neckfest, and it was an all dayer. I think we had like 8 or 9 bands or something like that. Packed house for the full day. The venue made loads of money. I think we broke even and all that kind of stuff. So once we knew that we could do it, it was kind of like, this can be successful. We can do this. We can build this into something a little bit better. And that's kind of now what we're doing now, with bringing more people into the fold to kind of help out. We've got Andy Coghill, who does a lot of recording kind of stuff, and he now does the live sound for us. I kind of came on board to, when I first saw Finn doing this. I mean, obviously he was in our band, so I was kind of like, this is awesome because we'll get to play a bunch of shows. But I was also like, I want all of these big bands to come and play as well. So in order for that to happen, people need to be like, does Inverness have a scene? Like, do people actually go to shows in Inverness? And like, you could look up any venue down in Glasgow or Edinburgh and all that kind of stuff, and YouTube it, and you'd be able to see the kind of bands that have played there. But if you ever Googled an Inverness venue, all you would get is some guy playing like you know, an accordion or, you know, like a fiddle or playing some traditional music. And that's not really the vibe that we wanted to give people. So we were like, we'll put on these shows and I'll film them and then I'll edit them. And big inspiration came from the guy down south, David Tan. You know, I've been a big fan of his, you know, for ages, you know, ever since I kind of got into hardcore music and just, you know, because you would search all the hardcore bands that you'd love and want to see live footage.
Totally.
He'd have it, you know. So I was like, let's do what he does, but up here and try and build the shows. And that's kind of what IHMR, Inverness Hardcore Metal and Rock, has been about. And now what we're trying to do is kind of take what you used to do with, you know, Death of a Strawberry podcasts and kind of merge it together with IHMR and
something magical.
Yeah. So
that's what I love as well about IHMR, because when I was certainly younger, I would go to a lot of shows in Glasgow and that, and you'd be like looking just for any sort of footage, because you would see shows down in England that would get recorded and you'd be like full set and it'd be amazing audio and you'd be like, oh, I wonder what's for Glasgow, and you get like 20 seconds of an iPhone like 4 recording a fucking that song. You'd be like, this is shit. But then you started seeing like all these like full sets going up with like amazing audio, and you're like, what the fuck? And then just to see it happening in Inverness as well for like all our bands and stuff. But every time it happens in this life, we're always like, yeah, that was a great fucking set. It's like, yeah, the audio didn't record. Like, fuck. And then we're like, all right, we're gonna get, oh, we were fucking audio didn't record, or the fucking film doesn't record, or something goes wrong when in this life does it. So it's kind of cursed for us. But I love watching everyone's sets. Like, I watched the Devil Within sets, I've watched Below the Next sets countless times. They're just so fucking fun to watch.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I've tried to incorporate not just the hardcore side of things. I've wanted to be like, you know what, I really like all of the elements that, you know, if you break down hardcore down to like its basics, you know, it's you know, really thrashy punk music, you know. So like, I mean, a lot of punk music, you know, has influences from old school hardcore kind of stuff. So there's like bands that I listen to that are like pop punk bands, you know, like big The Story So Far fan, you know, and Neck Deep. I love, you know, the kind of easy core breakdowns as well that you get, you know, very similar to like metalcore, you know. So all of these kind of things tie in together. So I was like, rather than just being like, you know, only filming the bands that do this specific genre, and then you're only having a select group of people, you know, wanting to see your footage. I was like, we'll broaden it a little bit and include a lot of the bands that kind of like fill in that broad spectrum. And that's kind of what Inverness is as well. Anyway, there is a large spectrum of bands, but I would say that there is certain, I wouldn't say niches, but there is like, you do have like a group of pop punk kind of easy core bands. You do have a group of metalcore kind of groove metal bands, and you do have some hardcore bands, you know, as well. So I wouldn't like to segregate them into those kind of like sections, you know, because when Finn puts on shows, you'll know yourself, having played some of them, you can have pop punk bands playing there, and you can have, you know, like grindcore bands playing there, you know. Luke Laughlin, horrific.
I've got the ticket for our headline we did in February, like 2 years ago, and it's like Isolates, Forgetting the Future, In This Life, Below the Neck. It's like 4 of the different bands right there. Indie, like, gents, hardcore, pop punk.
Jesus Christ, man. But that's the thing. I feel like if you're into metal or pop punk in Inverness, there's no reason not to be coming to these shows. I mean, unless you like really hate the people in the bands or something like that.
then it's all right. Understand?
Yeah, if you like the music, it's out there, and I feel like by doing something like this, we can kind of, you know, show people that the music's out there, you know, because a lot of the media outlets nowadays are kind of stuck in that way of, you know, like, oh, you've got a show, tell the paper and put it in the paper, and you know, it only really kind of happens to the well-known kind of bands that have been about for a long time, that the older folk, not the old people know, but the people that kind of, you know, like iGigs and all that kind of stuff, you know, we get mentioned in there occasionally, all that kind of stuff, but it is kind of like, you know, we've got to kind of go out of our way to be like, hey, we've got this show, can you put it in the in the schedule kind of thing. Whereas like, you go onto the Highlands Rock and Metal page, which, by the way, if anyone's watching this, you should, go and join that group right now, because if you're in the Highlands area and you like rock, metal, or anything like that, you'll get all the shows right there straight away, and
even if you're from down south or anything and just want to find out what's going on in Inverness and all that shit, get into that group. It's a fucking great group to discover some new music.
Yeah, because I mean, even like I'm always seeing like people daily sharing like bands that aren't even from here, that are from maybe like down in the Central Belt and all that kind of stuff. Possibly bands that might in the future play up in Inverness. And what's good about that is when we see somebody maybe posting up, like a band from Glasgow or Edinburgh or something like that, and then we see a bunch of people liking that show. Finn sees that, people from IHMR see that, and then they're like, right, if people like this, I'll book them for a show. We'll get them up, and we can put on a show, and it'll be badass. And if people like that kind of music, more people come to the show, the better atmosphere, the better the show is, the more these big bands want to come back, and the more money that the venues make, and then hopefully it just all kind of snowballs. But yourselves, it's always, you try and think the most positive light, and hopefully these kind of things will all come to fruition. But it's all you can do is try, and that's what we're doing, and yeah. So I mean, you play the more pop punk kind of stuff, but you used to play in a metal band as well.
I've fairly been a boot.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, I played in a band called In This Life. I played bass and did a little bit of vocals. And then for a while, for about 4 or 5 months, I was a vocalist on a metalcore band called The Devil Within. And on top of all that, I'm featuring on some tracks that's coming up. I'm trying to do a bit more vocals, more like screaming, also a bit of singing in there. I'm also trying to get back into guitar, so I'm keeping myself fairly busy with all this stuff and trying to keep up to date with all the fucking music that goes on in Inverness and Aberdeen and Glasgow and stuff. So I decided to try and keep on top of that. I was going to start a podcast called the Death Strawberry Podcast, and it was really well. I was really happy with it, but I slowly realized it's a bit of a task for one person. Just trying to get all the chat and like trying to get all the questions and trying to figure out who I should have on, rather than it just being my friends. Like, yeah. I needed maybe someone else just to have, like, you're more knowledgeable in the hardcore sort of things and the heavier sort of music, and I'm very into like pop punk and the indie sort of stuff. So we have like such a good eclectic taste in music. We should be able to fucking discover not just my friends' bands or your friends' bands, but maybe bands that we didn't even know about in the future and stuff. So exactly. That's why we kind of decided to come together, but also not just limit it to bands, limit it to like, not limit it at all, like just to have it to artists, whether it's like a painter, like whether it's a promoter, whether it's mixing, mastering, filming, whatever you do. If it's like an art form or something and you want to have a platform to share it, then this can be the platform.
That's the thing. When it comes to a community's music scene, as much as most people think the music scene, it is the bands. It's not just the bands. You've got the venues, the promoters, the people that are making the posters and all that kind of stuff. The artists who do that kind of stuff, which usually, like you say, tend to just be people's friends. Like I know loads of people, like a lot of the stuff that, for example, the T-shirt that you're wearing right there, that was made by a tattoo artist, called Sasha, down in I think it's Birmingham. Yeah, and she plays in a hardcore band as well, which I didn't know, until like she'd mentioned, oh yeah, I kind of play hardcore as well, and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. Like I was just like speaking to her because I really liked her artwork, and I thought, hey, maybe you could design something cool for my band. No idea she was into hardcore or anything like that. And then like I'm just following, her Instagram, and then she's like playing with her band, and I was like, that's fucking sick, and it's that kind of thing, like tattoo artists, like even just like people you wouldn't even think, like barber
Even-
shops, for example,
yeah.
or like skate shops, like I like I know people who have like had barber shops or like skate shops, and they've put shows on in these places, like technically they're not venues, but they've ended up making events out of it just because maybe they don't play an instrument, or maybe they have nothing to do with the music scene other than the fact that they enjoy that music and they want to listen to it. So I feel like there's always going to be like people out there that are like that, and I want to speak to those people, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, that's what we're. If you have anything that's like any sort of anything you do, let us know. Either get in contact with us through the IHMR page or the Death of Strawberry page, or if you know us personally, get in contact with us. And we would love to pretty much have anyone who just does like some sort of art or anything on this page and give you a great chance to, well, not a great chance, but hopefully come here for a bit of banter,
Potentially great chance.
a potentially great chance to be listened to by maybe a few people.
I mean, we'll not drag your name through the mud, at least. Like that's yeah. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's all going to be good, and we'll chat shit a lot as well. I mean, that's kind of why I felt like we've wanted to collab with each other, because whenever we kind of meet at shows and all that kind of stuff, me and Jacob don't actually live that close together. He stays in Bucky, I stay in Inverness. So it's at least, what was it, a 45-minute hour drive?
Fucking cunts doing 50 on the road. You'll be there in an hour and a half, but about an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I mean,
it's a journey.
Like as much as we like to say that we're within the same musical community and all that kind of stuff, there's still a bit of distance and all that kind of stuff. So when we do get a chance to actually meet in person and we get a chat and all that kind of stuff, it is very much we're talking like this. We're talking about what our passions are and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be perfect for us to kind of come together and kind of chat shit, get people on. I feel like the people that we both want to kind of have on are people that will be comfortable kind of chatting the same useless shit that we chat, whether it's about bands, whether it's about art, whether it's about going to shows, going to venues, or even putting on the shows, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, if you know us personally, or even if you don't and you're just into this kind of stuff, even if you hate us, or something like that, and you're like, hey, I'm going to listen to this podcast and I can just make fun of them all the whole time, that's fine as well. As long as you guys get some sort of enjoyment out of this,
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
As long as people want this, we'll keep doing it. And
yeah,
just let us know who you want on. We're more than happy to check out anyone, any sort of walks of life. We don't really care. We're scum too. We'll have anyone.
I mean, we're in the middle of a quarantine right now anyway, so I mean, even if people are hating it, we're still probably going to bust out a few more anyway, just until this is just so that we have.
You might as well act like you want it, or we'll just keep doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean,
speaking of quarantine life, how has that affected you and the Below Boys?
Yeah, it's well, Rory and Connor have kind of been productive. Connor just had a kid, so I mean, I don't know how he's actually been productive as well as that, but he's actually managing to be writing some tunes and stuff using the old Guitar Pro tablature method. I don't know. Most people I know that play music have never, I'm like, oh, so can you read music and stuff? And they're like, read music? You can read music? I thought you listened to music, like. So, when Connor writes it all down like that, I'm a bit kind of like, yeah, this is good. I feel professional, like a composer almost.
We have a completely different way of doing it. We just fucking send each other like recordings, and it's just like, all right, so how'd you play that? It's like, all right, the recording's there. Just keep pressing play. You'll figure it out. It's like, all right, I've got this.
That's my method of learning. Although usually I have to get them to like completely slow it down, and usually I have to be there in person.
I'm the same. I'm so bad with reading tabs because I'll end up reading the wrong note, and I'll just keep playing the wrong note, and everyone's like too nice to like say like you're doing the wrong note, and I'll just keep playing it wrong for ages. And then one day I'm like, oh, did you know I was playing that wrong? And they're like, yeah, we did.
How did you say something? I was like,
I think we'd play a song. I think it was Teenage Tragedy, and I was forever playing it in standard. And one day Chris was just like, "Oh yeah, you have to play that in D because there's like a fucking note that you can't hit in standard." And I was like, we've played that song live maybe about 9-10 times at this point. I'm like, all right, okay, so that's been wrong every time. Thank
Oh,
you.
but that's just the way of it, isn't it? I mean,
If
like,
you've seen in this life, you know that's a regular occurrence. I probably fuck up once every 2 songs, maybe on average.
I feel like the best way to fuck up live is to just like keep giving yourself reasons to fuck up. Like, if you constantly are running around the stage and doing like cool jumps, and then everyone's like, "Oh, why did you keep fucking up?" And I was like, "Well, did you see me on stage? Like, you gotta have a reason, And then at least that way, you've got an excuse."
That's what
It's
we've
like,
been
I'm
trying to
still
do a
doing
bit
shit.
more. Liven up the set to jump about, so when we fuck up, people are like, "Oh, at least you look cool doing it."
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, that's been all the gigs cancelled for. I would probably say I think all the gigs are gonna be cancelled for the whole year. I think people are planning tours for like September and shit. I'm like, that's just wishful thinking, personally, in my opinion. I think December, January time we might start getting back to like normality and shit. But what do you think?
Man, well, I mean, we had some stuff planned for September. That was kind of like we actually we were supposed to be playing a show on Saturday just past with the local heroes, Zombie Militia themselves, and
Oh yeah, was that not the Ironworks gig, or is that later on in the
yeah, no, that was the Ironworks gig, yeah, with Cobalt and King Cobalt and Zombie Militia, which I there was talk of one of those live stream gigs and all
Okay.
that. I felt like once everyone had started doing that, I was like, well, the novelty's kind of worn off now, I don't really want to do it.
Totally.
So I don't think they went ahead with it. But there might be something. Hopefully there's something. I mean, maybe even we can be like streaming some old sets. Like I'm now that I've got so Tyler who comes to like all the hardcore shows and metal shows like in Inverness. Him and Andy, they always come to the shows. He helped me out filming at the Negative Measures show back in February, and since then he's just been like asking me like, "Oh, can I help out filming? Can I help out with the edit and all that kind of stuff?" And me being a lazy bastard and also having loads of other commitments, that I've stupidly made, I'm like, yes, any help will be gladly accepted. And he's been amazing. He's done loads of the editing and all that kind of stuff. His computer is probably way better than mine. He's got like Sony Vegas and all that kind of shit.
Oh, nice.
Stuff using like the fucking Audacity version of like Premiere Pro. We're just waiting until I can get like a decent laptop to fucking do it all. And he's busting out these sets easy peasy, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is so good. So hopefully we'll have a bunch of sets for you guys to watch, from Inverness and all that kind of stuff. And if you want a bigger fill of live hardcore sets, then my boy David Tan, he's got them all. Can see ourselves on there as well. And
I'm subscribed to his Patreon. It's like £3. It's super good.
Best £3 ever, man.
It's so good. You get ridiculous amount of fucking shit for it. I've been watching a lot of the Misplaced set in the Cat House at the Woes last show. That was a really good gig. Spoke to Soon, our boys played it as well. Their set's fucking great. Just watch all that shit. It's so much fun.
Yeah, well, there you go. Tan's got some pop punk stuff on his page too now.
He's got 2 pop punk sets. It's fucking sick.
But I mean, no, if you manage to get through all of Tan's stuff, Hate 5-6, if you like more of the American kind of bands and all that kind of stuff, he goes about there and does all that.
I'd personally recommend Vane. This is hardcore. I think it's 2018. It's just a battlefield watching a crowd. Like, just pick someone and just like watch their journey. It's fucking amazing. They always get glocked out in like 10 minutes.
Oh my god, there's this guy. See if you watch the Jesus Piece set from that.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, it's this guy. I follow him on Instagram. He's called like Silverback, and it's just this like huge guy. Like, oh my god, he does like front flips onto his back on stage and shit like that, and he's just like destroying people the whole set. And there's this awesome fucking bit of like him being on the stage for like a Jesus Piece set, and then like the vocalist from Jesus Piece just double leg drop kicking him into the crowd.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's so
Oh my
funny.
god, that's amazing. So like definitely if you love watching that kind of shit, get on that. You know, like I mean that's why I wanted to film all of these kind of sets as well. It's just like I love seeing that kind of stuff. I love doing that kind of stuff. There's a boy Lewis McLean, local boy who if you like seeing a cartwheel, he's your man. You know, he'll bust out a cartwheel in that pit, you know.
If you like getting glocked in the head with fucking Air Max, he's
Yeah.
your boy.
But that's the thing. I know some people are like completely against that. That's fine. I know some people are completely for that. That's also fine. As long as everyone's happy and they all get to see the music and enjoy the music, that's fine. I'm not going to be one of those, oh no, crowd killing is fucking deadly. It should never be allowed. And I'm also not one of those people that are like, fucking push pits are for pussies, you know. Like
Totally.
you know, it's like each to their own. I personally like to view it as like almost like a martial art, you know, like you know when you see those people do like karate but they're not fighting anyone, they're just doing all the movements.
Yeah. They're just like
That's what I see.
They're
Like,
just like, wow, that's fucking
yeah,
sick. Yeah, I get
like
it.
just doing all the fucking kicks and shit like that, and like it just looks impressive to me, you know. And if somebody wanders into one of those kicks and gets swiped in the face, that's just a bonus.
Should have been looking.
Yeah.
As long as people can express themselves and, you know, no one's like, not taking the piss, but as long as everyone's given an equal chance to express themselves, then what's the problem? Let people front kick them pals in the face. It's fucking entertaining as shit to watch.
Yeah. Usually people who do that kind of stuff tend to do it with their own pals. I've never seen somebody, you know, do like, I've seen somebody run and Superman punch someone like just at the side of the show. The guy who like had a broken nose. This was at the Vane set. This is the Vane set like 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah, it must almost be 2 years ago now. This was the first time I actually met Tan as well, because I brought my little GoPros, and this was the first time I was like trying to film something. And went to go see Vane at G2, and he was filming the show. Literally, like, there's this big massive guy in front of me, and like he goes into the pit, and then like 2 seconds later I see him like jump in front of the camera, and he like punches the guy in front of me right in the face. His nose is burst and everything. At the end of the show, I was like, "Are you okay, man?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, fucking nose is burst and everything. What bastard, I can't believe you did it, like right at the start of the show." And I was like, "Are you like, did you know that guy? Like, are you going to like, you know, see him after the show and sort him out or something like that?" And he was like, "No, like I love that shit." And I'm just like, I have a lot to learn about this, you know. And like that was kind of like my baptism into live hardcore, because as much as I've listened to it, you know, staying up here in Inverness, actually getting to experience a hardcore show live is it's something different. And you know, afterwards the Secret show with like Revolve, oh my god, that was another thing as well. Like I'd never realized. I went to uni and did music technology down at UWS, and you know, there's a bunch of other people there doing the course that were like musicians or like people that were just, you know, wanting to be working in recording studios. And you know, I bump into one of the guys there, Sean, you know, who was, you know, he would always come into the classes like, "Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, not bad. I was playing a show last night," and I was like, so I knew he'd done scream vocals and all that kind of stuff. No idea who they were, and I was like, you know, not a big time Revolve fan, but I'd listened to them and I was like, these guys are fucking, they go hard, man. They got some riffs, you know. And then like I bump into Sean at the Vane show and I'm like, "Oh my god, how's it going?" And he's like, "Oh, not bad, man. Like, do you like this kind of stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, just got into it and all that kind of stuff." And he's like, "Oh, you should come see my band play. Like afterwards we're playing like a secret show with, you know, the Flying Duck." And I was like, "That's sweet. I'll you know, like I'll bring Finn and the guys and we'll go see." And you know, it wasn't until we got there that he was like, "Yeah, I'm the vocalist in Revolve." And I was like, and meanwhile Finn, knowing that like Sean is like the front man of, you know, Revolve, like comes up and he's like, "How do you know Sean?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, I went to uni with him." And he's like, "Do you know he's like Revolve frontman?" And I was like, no. He was like, yeah. And he's like, he does a bunch of like promotions and all that kind of stuff as well for all the bands down there. So
Awesome.
it was that was what made me want to do all of the things that I've done the past 2 years to do with music. Is I wouldn't say based on that one night, but it's definitely a lot of things I've done more because of that one night. You know, so
Oh,
people like meeting David Tan that night, meeting Kat that night, you know, meeting Sean, meeting Declan as well, the guitarist for Revolve. He was on the course too. Really nice guys, and these are all people that, you know, I want to kind of get us on this podcast and get a wee chat, and you know, and hopefully you guys will enjoy their chat as well. You know.
yeah, hopefully, not that you can learn something, but hopefully there'll be stuff to be learned from the podcast as well, not just a place to come and like get it. Well, it will be a place to come and get some banter between bands and shit, but also hopefully learn something, hear some shit that you wouldn't necessarily hear. Like, I think we spoke about this, or maybe I spoke about it in the podcast, but it was like when we first went to our first gig, we didn't even know how to sound check. Like when they tasked us to go up and start setting up, we were just like, all right, hope we know what to do. And then we made James quit that night because we were so like he was like, bring up your bass amp, and I just pulled out this thing from like the 80s that needed like 6 people to carry it. He's like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, that is my bass amp. And he's like, I'm done. And he just walked away, and I was like, shit. And then Sean from Moses was like,
was this?
Tooth and Claw.
Oh my god!
We were supporting Woes, and we just were not like we were not like ready for that sort of shit.
Did we meet at that? Did we speak at that show? I'm pretty sure I was at that show, but
I think that's where I probably first seen you. I don't know if I met you or like spoke to you, but I'm sure we probably said like hello
Yeah.
at least, you know.
because I think I was at that show. I definitely remember being at that show because Connor was going, and then because I have the pink Woes top, you know, the Good Vibes Change Lives
Yeah.
top, and I was like, that's pretty sick, you know, and so I was like these, you know, and I was kind of into because I played in a little pop punk band as well, you know, I was kind of into that easy core as well, so I was like, I'll get down to the show,
That was a
but
pretty stark lineup when you think about it now. It was like us, spoke too soon, the Hostiles, and then it was Woes. And there was I think it was pretty packed for Spoke Too Soon, to be fair. Like it was like such like a great gig, and we were just like we were not like ready for that. Like our first gig should have been in a pub probably, but like we played a pretty big looking. Well, for us at the time, it was fucking huge to us, and it was
that was
crazy.
that was your first ever show.
That was right in at the deep end. We were like, we saw a post on, I think it was Scottish Pop Punk that said that they needed 2 more support bands for Inverness and 1 for Dundee. And we were like, why don't we just say we'll do both? And we're like, yeah, we don't have a drummer, so let's not do that. Let's just go for the Inverness one. So we just went for the Inverness one. And we thought like we would just be in contention with other bands, and they would be like, "Oh, we'll maybe take you for another one." And then like the next day, like, "Yeah, right, no problem. Just meet us this day. Here's your tickets to sell. Blah blah blah. Do this." And we're just sitting there like, "Oh fuck!" So we had to go find a drummer. Our friend Elliot Stradlin, very nicely filled in for our first 2 shows, and that gig ended up getting us the Spoke Too Soon show in Elgin, and then before we knew it, we ended up actually playing like so many shows, and we were just like, what the fuck? It was crazy. But it's like you say, those moments, like we got to sit down and like speak to the Woes boys after they came back to our Airbnb, and we just sat the whole night, got fucked up. It was so great, and we just met so many people that night, and that was like sort of our sort of time to be like, this is why we want to start stuff up here, like.
Yeah.
And but before that, I remember going to a show in Aberdeen, and Kieran took me, and he was like, "Oh, it's just like a bunch of local bands playing." And I was like, "I don't really want to go see local bands." Like he used to take me to see like every gig in Aberdeen, where there was like Set Your Goals, The Story So Far in the Tunnels, like heaps of fucking bands that like went to there. Kieran took us along, and he's like, "Nah, like trust me, you'll get to see some awesome fucking local bands and stuff, and it'll be a great time." So we saw like Haywire. Who else did we see? We saw Campfires that night, like Ray Bauer. We saw some Where There's Life was another cool band from Edinburgh we saw there. Just like saw these bands. I was just like, what the fuck? This is what's happening like in America, but like in the middle of Aberdeen. Like what the fuck? My mind was just blown. Like I had no idea this shit existed. And from that moment, I was like, I want to fucking just play shows, whether it's in Aberdeen or not. I do not care. So that was like the first time for me, and I think that was the first night like I met like a lot of people. I think I met AJ that night for the first time. I think I
AJ.
met
Yeah.
absolute hero. So many people that night, and it was just like, fuck, I had no idea this happened in Aberdeen, and I think that's one of the problems as well. Like a lot of people don't know these shows are happening, or maybe like know it's happening, but like don't, if you know what I mean. Like they've probably seen the poster, but don't realize like there's a fucking awesome little night happening tonight, and you'll
Oh
pay like
yeah.
£4 to get in.
I feel like as soon as you like make one friend that like is like goes to these shows or like is within that group, it's like you just start realizing, oh my god, there is so much out there, and it's almost like it kind of annoys me how like you can't, like I know so many people that have been like, oh, I wish there was, you know, hardcore shows playing in Inverness, and I'm like, there is, you know, you just have to, like, it's hard to, you know, going back to what I said with like the old school kind of like media process of like getting things in like the local magazines or like the local papers and all that kind of stuff, because it's that kind of like different generation, you know, unless you're part of communities on Facebook or part of, you know, like, you know, you follow certain people on Instagram or like, unless you're getting that, you know, social media is so tailored to like your own little bubble.
Yeah,
It's like you actually have to kind of like go out of your way to try and find it, to try and see what's going on. And it does suck a little bit, but I mean that's what things like this and things like the Highlands Metal and Rock page, IHMR, all these kind of like trying to incorporate other groups into one big group, so that if you want to look for other kind of stuff, you know, hey, I can go here and I can find it, and you know, like, oh, I'll speak to this guy, you know, because I've seen him at every hardcore show, so he knows about the hardcore bands, you know, and it's like that was the thing. I remember when we were first looking for, you know, like before Below the Neck was even like a band and all that kind of stuff. Rory, who essentially started the band, you know, like spoke to Connor because he'd seen Connor, you know, at these, you know, kind of heavier shows or sharing kind of heavier bands on Instagram. And then Connor mentioned that I was the one that got him into, you know, these kind of bands, so he should speak to me. And then when we were looking for a drummer, we were all like, right, who goes to all the metal shows and like plays drums? Finn, you know, and it was just like all these kind of things, just like we all found each other because we all went to the shows and we all liked that kind of music, you know.
cool.
Granted, Thomas is like the black sheep in it all, in that like nobody had any idea who the fuck he was. Yeah, you know, like
No one had any idea he was an absolute monster of a vocalist.
oh my god, when somebody sent me his profile picture, it was like him in like a buttoned up shirt, like you know, like a suit, you know, like goes to work, has like a job, you know, like doing like architecture or something like that. And I was like, who the fuck's this guy? You know, and then like he comes in like just like the first thing, the prerequisites for me in having a vocalist was like, you know, they need to sound like brutal as fuck. But if they sound brutal as fuck and look like me in that they look like a bitch, no. You know, like they need to look hench as fuck. They you know, like they need to look, you know, like you wouldn't want to fuck with them. Like it just makes their vocals even more brutal, you know. And it doesn't really, you know, like I know that now after seeing like bands like Knocked Loose and shit like that, you know, and like with the high pitched vocals, and you start to appreciate more. But at the time, I was like, I just want like a brutal fucking, you know, I want it to sound like somebody's, you know, dragging a fucking massive slab of granite across like some tarmac. You know, that is the sound of vocals I want. You know, like if by the way, if you want those kind of like fucking sweet gravel dragging vocals, Revulsion. Those are your guys.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, finding all these kind of people through these kind of things, it's hard to find it unless you look for it. But you know, it's there. It's there. You just gotta look for it, and hopefully it'll be easier to kind of, you know, come to all these shows and see all these people. And then once you get that one friend, you'll be at all the shows, and you'll be addicted like me and
Totally.
can't stop going to them. And you'll have to film them so you can watch them at home later. And enjoy
Especially
it.
for people who are around the area that I am at, where when people say they're starting a new band, that means like they've got a cover band that you can come listen to in the pub at night.
Yeah.
You can hear them play Sweet Home Alabama and gotta know when to fold them, know when to hit them, and all that shit. You know, it's just like we didn't want to do that. And so when we announced that we were starting the band, like all the local pubs had been started messaging, "Oh, you looking for gigs? You looking for gigs?" And like we had to be like, maybe at one point, but we're gonna just try to be a band. And like, all right, no problem. Well, just message us when you're wanting gigs. And we were just like, fuck you guys. We're gonna prove to you guys that there is scenes, there is music, and there is actual real gigs that you can go to around here. So that's
Yeah.
been a big point of it. And like when we were trying to get our weekender with you guys, like we were just trying everyone, and like no one was doing it. We're like, fuck this, we'll do it ourselves. And we just found the only pub that would have us in Fraserburgh, which big shout out to Balaclava Bar, and we just put on a fucking kick-ass show in a random fucking little town in Fraserburgh, where you guys have probably never even heard of Fraserburgh to that point. And then here you guys are in the middle of fucking their country, just being like, where are we? But
I thought we'd fucking like gone across some borders or something like that, because when we spoke to Isaac's dad, who owns the bar, I was like speaking to him, and he was like, "I can't crack at the flat to drive." And I was like, Ben, can you
do you need help picking out your drums?
something about loading? And I was like, the nicest guy ever. I just could not understand a fucking word. Like, and Isaac and AJ, like when they're, when they come play shows over here, it's like they turn it off a little bit. I wouldn't say turn it. Well, yeah, turn it off, because I wouldn't say it's something that you turn on. I think it's just like something that's just how they talk. It's like anywhere, So when he comes to Inverness, it's like I can understand every word he says. But whenever we're like over in Aberdeen or like Fraserburgh and he's talking to people, and I'm just like, I'm so lost.
Like, you get that a lot, especially like I don't think I particularly sound like someone from this area, but like when I go to this area, everyone's like, "Oh, I Canada," and I'm like, I didn't sound like. If I go over here, people are like, "Oh, you don't sound like you're from here." And if I go to Inverness, like, "Oh, you sound like you drive tractors," eh? It's like
You do,
I cannot win.
I sound like I've fucking been forced to watch Friends all of my upbringing, and I'm just
you learned English by watching Friends.
I like that is exactly what's happened. Like I have this horrific American sounding accent. I've never I literally went to America for the first time back in February, and like that's the only time I've been in America. Like, yes, I've watched shitloads of The Simpsons and shitloads of shitloads of Friends. So I guess maybe, but I guess it's one of those things. I remember when a good friend of mine, Bart, who came over from Poland, like one of the first people that came over, I was in like primary school, and this was like primary 5.
Okay.
And or like 4 or 5 or something like that. And I remember hanging out with him and like, showing him like, oh, this is where we play football and all that kind of stuff, and barely spoke a lick of English and all that kind of stuff. But like we still managed to like do fun things like TIG and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, as he started to learn a little bit more, I found that it was easier for him to understand me if I spoke to him in like a broken, like I spoke English in a Polish accent. And I started hanging out with him so much that I ended up speaking to whenever I used to come home and speak to my family, I'd be like, "Hello, father. May I please have dinner now?"
He's like, "You're not from Poland, Johnny. We've been over this like 6 times. Yeah. You're from Inverness."
And that was the thing. My family thought I was taking the piss out of Bart every time. So when me and Bart would come back, and I'd be like, "Can Bart please stay over tonight?"
This is what you're like, super racist kids.
Yeah, and they're like, "He's right there." Like, what the fuck are you doing? So I mean, like, I have no idea why I have this accent. I did the same thing with the Swedish exchange. Like when we had like we went to Sweden. It's just like they don't notice it because they all speak with an accent. So when you speak back with an accent, they're just like, "Oh, that probably sounds that sounds even more normal than when they're speaking in English." Like they probably think like when I'm talking, how I'm talking right now, they probably, "Oh yes, he talks like this," So if I do talk with an accent, it's probably pretty not. Well, that's what I thought anyway. Apparently not. Apparently, I was just being really insensitive and offensive.
I get what you mean though, because my mum's from Ayrshire, so my mum speaks to me in like a very sort of Glaswegian. I'm not gonna say it's Glaswegian or she'll hate me, but
Yeah.
it's like a Glaswegian-esque accent. So when I go down to Glasgow, it sort of comes out, and everyone's like, "Where the fuck did this come from?" And it's like, "Oh, just trust me, I've been around this for years." So my accent's this weird sort of like down south, but up here, but also almost with a tittle American. It's but very like I drive a truck there and I can how to put shillings into pounds and drive a truck.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, if you ever come up here, you'll see the arrays of accents and how annoying it is to understand someone. But
At least it's not a Dundee accent. Dundee accent is horrendous. I don't care. I'll fight any Dundee bands. It's probably why
was
we've
it,
never been asked to play Dundee, but the accent is horrendous.
we played Dundee. Dundee's actually all right. Actually, I quite like playing Dundee. But no, my sister and her boyfriend, they went to uni down in Dundee, so they're like, big up Dundee, that kind of shit. And I'm like, but, I mean, if you pay attention to football, like and you're a Cali fan, like Dundee kind of fucked us recently, with like ending the season. But
Yeah.
we're here to talk about music, not football.
That's the IHMR football cast.
Yeah, we'll be bringing out our own football strips pretty soon. So yeah.
Oh man, that's the first merch drop. Sorted.
But no, I think this has gone pretty well. I think we're getting to the stage now where we're no longer talking about actual topics now. We're just talking shite.
Get used to that. It's gonna happen a lot. This podcast is about bass. Is 10 minutes about it is bass, 50 minutes chat shit. Get used to it.
That's something surprising. We have two bassists, chatting to each other, and we haven't mentioned the fact we both play bass and are the best musicians in our band yet.
Well,
I
don't like to brag. Just like to be humble. So it's maybe for another podcast. Or maybe because I don't know how to play bass. It could be one of the two.
I don't think there is a
Jacob, what's this
bassist
part of your
actually
bass and how does this work and how does that? And I was like, just plug it in.
Yeah, if you ever come across a good bassist, they're usually playing rhythm guitar.
That's probably why I'm so good, because I was never a lead guitarist. I always just knew like I don't have like the intricacy to be like a lead guitarist. I'm always just going to be playing the dun-dun-dun, and I'm happy with that.
I don't have the finger coordination. I have finger coordination in this hand, but not this hand.
So the fun fact about me you'll learn for this one is I'm actually left-handed, but when I was younger, I was going to get a left-handed guitar. My mum was going to get one, and the guy was like, yeah, it's like £600. He's like, fuck that. There's a right-handed one there for like 80. And she's like, 80 will do. So I play guitar like backwards. So when I'm trying to read a tab, my fingers just like, I just don't know how to do this. So I just like I just learn the tracks most of the time because it's just so backwards and confusing. But so there's your fact. I don't think I could play left-handed like guitar. I can play left-handed drums. I can't play drums normally. I have to switch them around. But guitar I play right-handed, even though I'm a lefty.
I always think drums played open-handed looks cooler. That's just me. Like when they.
Like, is that with the sticks like almost holding it like classic?
No, like so you know how people play like the hi-hat and the snare like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So left-handed people would play like. If they didn't have the kit set up left-handed, they would just play like the hi-hats with the left, and then like the right hand would hit the snare. Connor Meeks, who I used to play in my first ever band called Epic Face,
awesome.
Played majority Blink-182 covers. He is an amazing drummer. And again, not to say anything bad about my drummer Finn, but he's probably the best drummer in Inverness. And there's loads of amazing drummers in Inverness, like Luke Lockley, you've got Nick for, Zombie Militia, Finn, fucking, there's more that I could,
too.
Yeah, Keenan. No. No, Keenan is really good. If you saw Keenan like 2 years ago, like playing drums, I mean, you probably did see Keenan playing drums 2 years ago, and you see him now, the amount that kid has improved is insane, and it's just the fact that like I walk down to like the shops, and like he stays around the corner from me, and I can hear the drums. Yeah. And I'll be walking back from the shops, and I'll still hear the drums. And I mean, like, yeah, we're in a quarantine. What else is he supposed to fucking do? But like, even before the quarantine, that's what I was hearing. You know, so I mean, like,
Yeah.
the guy puts in the effort, and you know, that's all you can do. You know, it's more than I do. I'm a shit fucking musician. So I mean, you know,
I took the
I
bass
feel
out
like
its case since the tour in February. It's
yeah,
just sat there.
yeah, the only reason I'm a bassist is because I want to be in a band, and the bass was the only thing I could play. You know, that's the only thing. You know,
I
like
only played bass because we had a rhythm guitarist at the time, so I was just like, "Yeah, play bass, why not?" And then like we didn't have one. He's like, "Do you want to switch over to rhythm?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna continue playing bass." So I just played bass for a while, and as the time
yeah.
went, I was like, "Hmm,
Well,
should I have done that?"
I was saying this to like Tyler and Andrew because they come to all the hardcore shows. I was like, you guys should start a band, and they were like, we don't play anything though. I was like, I play the keyboard or whatever, and I was like, dude, I can't fucking play an instrument, you know.
Exactly.
I like I I wouldn't say I'm good at, you know, scream vocals or anything like that, but compared to what I was like, compared to now, like when I watched the video from the Edinburgh show uh, that Tan filmed, I was like, they're actually not horrible now. You know, like I can, you know, so I mean, like, and there's loads of hardcore bands that have, like, if you listen to their vocals, you'd be like, how the fuck does he get away with, you know, doing that kind of shit? But there's loads of bands that have those kind of vocals, and like, that's what's fucking awesome about the music is it doesn't need to be, you know, like, oh, you know, that's, you know, this is a hardcore riff, you have to play it like this, you know, like, you know, like, oh, thrash riffs are very much like dead it dead it dead it, you know, like it's not like that style of music where like there is, you know, like these methods of playing. It's like there is no method of vocals for hardcore. It's like you could do anything, and it could be fucking awesome. So I was telling them, I was like, you guys should fucking be a band. And they
Totally.
were like, oh, but we can't play anything. And I was like, I can't. So, you know, if I'm able to fucking do it, you guys certainly can. You know, so I mean, if anyone's out there that is like, oh, I like this music, you know, and I want to play in a band and all that kind of stuff, but I can't play anything and I can't afford to buy an instrument or anything like that. Bullshit. Just do it. You know,
Exactly.
just
A lot of
fucking
bands as well will just be like, if you're like, I want to play bass, but I don't have a bass. I'm like, oh, fucking take your bass. That's what we did for Jay, the Devil Within. We gave him a 5 string bass. Well, Keenan gave him a shot, a 5 string bass, and was like, just use this, game. And so
yeah.
there'll always be a way. Like, if you're putting those shit on yourself, saying like, oh, I can't do this because I can't play an instrument or I can't do that, then you're not gonna. If you're like saying, I'm gonna be the vocalist, I'm gonna be the guitarist, then you'll be sound. But join pages like the Highland rock page. You got Scottish pop punk. They're kind of good places to get started if they're your sort of things.
Uh,
There's also a
UK
Highlands emo
hardcore.
page as well.
Yeah. Oh, the
Granite
emo
City
page.
Hardcore as well. Yeah. There's so many pages that'll keep you up to date with local music around here and get
The
you to
yeah,
know these people.
GHC page as well. If you're down south and you're watching this, or the UK hardcore page. There's two. There's like a UK hardcore page, and there's a UK actual relevant stuff.
Yeah, that's right,
I
isn't
had
it?
to write that. You know, just you know, like I wonder at what point, you know, on the original page where they're like, right, you know, this stuff's cutting a line now. We need to make a separate page for actual relevant stuff.
That's crazy.
But
Or if you go to UK Hardcore Trade, you might see me selling off some of my records, so pick them up.
yeah,
But
but
no, this has just been a fucking little bit of a goof, little bit of a gaff to get you into
yeah,
the DeathHammer sort of podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it, really.
yeah. If you guys have got any feedback, if this was too long, if we didn't talk enough about actual stuff, actual relevant stuff, and you know, if we did just talk about too much shit, or you know, like we said at the start, if there's anyone that you want on or anything like that, just let us know. Any feedback, that would be fucking great. This is our first time doing anything like this as well, so you
So
know,
yeah,
we'll
there
take
will
any.
be imperfections. Some stuff will be a bit dodgy, but as the time goes on, hopefully they'll be rolled out and you'll get a product that you love.
Yeah. Also, if you have compliments too, like, you know, feel free to, you know, massage our egos and
Totally. You can always do that in these troubling times.
yes. You know, stay safe, stay indoors, you know, all that malarkey. And yeah, we'll hopefully be back next time soon with some bang ass guests.
Yeet, yeet. Stay safe, folks.
Peace.